Welcome to the session on measures of central tendency and spread, more measures of location. The objectives for this session are to calculate measures of central tendency, such as percentiles and quartiles. Recall that the median is the middle value in an ordered data set. Quartiles split the data into quarters. So let's take a look at an example. If we have a data set, and here the data set is being represented by a number line, this would be the minimum. 25% of the way along, we would have the first quartile, or Q1. This is a quarter of the way through the data. 25% more, or 50% along, we have Q2. This is the median value, and median is halfway through the data, and it splits the data into two equal parts. Then 75% along from the minimum, we have Q3. This is the upper quartile, or the third quartile. It is 3/4 of the way through the data. And 100% along, or 25% more along, from Q3, we have the maximum. Now let's take a look at percentiles. Percentiles split the data into 100 equal parts. So again, if we look at the data from a number line perspective, we have the minimum and the maximum highlighted as shown. And here we have 10% along, the 10th percentile. This lies 1/10 of the way through the data. And 63% of the way along, we have the 63rd percentile. This lies 63% of the way through the data. So 63% of the data is less than the 63rd percentile, and 27% of the data is greater than the 63rd percentile. Now, if there are n data values, the median value is in the n+1/2th position. Q1 is in the n/4th position. Q3 is in the 3n/4th position. And remember, if it is not a whole number, then for our purposes, we're going to round up. Let's now take a look at an example. Pause the video and have a go. Press play when you're ready to view the solution. So the values on your screen are the salaries of 20 employees in a company, measured in pounds per month. Find the median value and quartiles for this data. So let's solve this. We're going to begin by first preparing the data. Now what this means is because the data is not in order and we're required to find the median and the quartiles, we first need to order the data. So here's the data put in order, the smallest first, and then moving up to the largest. So let's solve this. We first find the median. The median is in the n+1/2th position. And as there are 20 employees, the position of the median is 20 + 1/2. This is 21/2, which is 10.5. This is the average of the 10th and 11th values. Here's the 10th value and here's the 11th value. Now, although we did say if it's not a whole number, then round up, because 10.5 is clearly right in the middle of these two values, it's easier to find the average of the two. And so, taking the average, we get that the median is equal to 168.5. And now for the first quartile. The position of Q1 is n over 4. So the fifth value. And the fifth value is 118. And now let's find Q3. The position of Q3 is 3n over 4. So plugging in n equals 20 gives us 60 over 4, which is 15. So the position of Q3 is at the 15th value, and this is equal to 468. Therefore, Q3 equals 468. Now let's take a look at percentiles. Remember that percentiles split the data into 100 parts. Pause the video and have a go at this example. Press play when you're ready to view the solutions. So let's take a look at part 2a first. The frequency table gives the time to the nearest minute taken to type a page of notes by 80 people. Find an estimate for the upper quartile. So of course, the upper quartile is Q3, which is in the 3n over 4th position. So solving this, we're going to plug in n equals 80 into our formula for Q3, or rather the position of Q3, so that we have 3 times 80 over 4 being the position of Q3. So Q3 is in the 60th position. And therefore, Q3 is in the 24 to 25th category, because up to the 22 to 23 category, we have 21 values, and up to the 24 to 25 category, we have 73 values. And therefore, Q3 must lie in the 24 to 25 category. Now let's try and find a more precise value for Q3. We have the boundaries of the interval 24 to 25 denoted by 23.5 and 25.5. And of course Q3 is going to lie somewhere in between the two. We have underneath the frequencies. So of course 21 corresponds to 23.5, 60, which is the position of Q3, corresponds to Q3, and 73 corresponds to 25.5. So using ratios, we have this equation. We have Q3 minus 23.5 divided by the class width, 25.5 minus 23.5, is equal to 60 minus 21 divided by 73 minus 21. You will be able to see from the diagram why this is true. And so calculating this gives us 39 divided by 52, and then rearranging gives us Q3 equals 25. And now for part B, we are required to find an estimate for the 20th percentile. So let's solve this. The position of P20 equals 20n over 100, which equals n over 5. And therefore, plugging in n equals 80 gives us the position of P20 is 80 over 5, which is equal to 16. So P20 is in the 22 to 23 category, as shown here. So of course the 16th value is going to lie in the 22 to 23 category. Again, let's use a diagram and ratios to help us calculate the value of P20. So we have on the left-hand side of the equation P20 minus 21.5 over 23.5 minus 21.5 is equal to 16 minus 3 over 21 minus 3. And of course, tidying up on the right-hand side gives us 13 over 18. And then rearranging and solving for P20 gives us that P20 equals 22.9. This brings us to the end of this session. If you have understood its contents, you should be able to calculate measures of central tendency such as percentiles and quartiles. Thank you very much for listening. To understand this topic in greater depth, do attempt the exercises in your textbook related to this topic.